더 차례로 올라가서 커지는 스케일 시도하는 너만이 다른 애도 저는 얘라 또 장할게 가리는 거 없어 싹 다 토핑해서 씹어먹어 땡땡땡 피자 프랜차이즈 본점처럼 나를 본다네 그래 다들 예의주시해 시선 고정해 아닌 척 다 곁눈질로 Yeah I know 숨길래도 티가 나 백세들의 전쟁 속에서 새는 귀찮네 Set it on my ambitions 하나 둘씩 완성돼 I made it Now it's time for ignition 나부터 시작돼 뒤따라 움직여도 미로 효과 더 불이 지펴 no 모두 몰려와 now 줄 세워 여기 있다 누구도 예외는 없어 한번 짝짝하면 domino 한번 깍딱하면 domino
Hey everybody. Happy New Year. Happy Gregorian New Year, not the one that happens in September. Cool. So, I'm assuming the online people can hear me, and if they can't, they will scream real loud. But we've got about 20 people here in person today, and it's great to see all of you. We're here to talk about elections. We have 4 excellent candidates today for 3 excellent openings on the board. And I think the format for today, we're going to introduce all of the candidates. I'm just going to name them, and they can come down here and awkwardly take a seat in front of all of you, where they will remain for the duration of the questions and answers section with the candidates. Totally fair. Totally fair. Akshay will be a disembodied head appearing on the screen behind to intimidate the other 3 candidates who are in the room. So, so I think we're going to let each candidate sort of introduce themselves, give an opening statement if they want, and then we'll throw things open to the room and online for Q&A. You can direct your questions at particular candidates, or you can ask generally. I remember there being, when I was awkwardly sitting in one of those chairs in front of the room, I remember there being pretty good success that were kind of open-ended, and some subset of the candidates may have chosen to speak up on them because they had a particularly relevant answer. And so I would encourage you to kind of like not necessarily worry about laser focusing your questions, but instead using your questions to explore with the candidates. I think that's all I got. We've got, like I said, we've got 4 candidates. I'm going to do it from this end of the room to that end of the room, and then the screen. We've got Reboot. We've got Rabbit. We've got, and we've got Sean. So come on down. Sort yourselves into seats. I'm not going to tell you which end goes first. All right. And then we've got Akshay, who will be on the screen. I know we do have Akshay, or did have Akshay. All right. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do this in the order that they were listed on the screen, turns out, and it turns out Reboot was listed first. So you want to go ahead and open?
Okay. Hello, I'm Reboot. I am running for the board. I have notes. So my career background is primarily in the video games industry as a software developer. I've also worked as an EMT on a 911 ambulance. I am currently the producer for Critical Northwest 2025. I have also served as producer the previous 2 years of Critical Northwest. I have been also safety director and medical lead and medium scale art that's been placed both at Critical and at Burning Man. Some of the things that I'm proud of accomplishing in my production work include a lot of focus on safety. I was responsible for instituting Incident Command System Practices, ICS, which is a standardized methodology that first responders and industry use to organize response around emergencies and disasters and other unexpected things. I've also, let's see. Oh yeah. I was responsible for transitioning us away from volunteer medical at Critical to full-time professional medical. And I think that was a controversial decision, but it turned out well, I think. I did a bunch of things in production around sort of the well-being of our volunteer core community, CORPS community. Expanded the production team last year from 49 to 66. Part of that was to add redundancy, but spread the work out to be more manageable among more people and make us more fault tolerant when somebody got sick or whatever. I created the Department of the Census last year, which was largely due to the efforts of Bea and Mallow, a huge success. We got about 2/3 of the participants at Critical responding to that, which was well beyond our hopes. And so that's going to be a really important tool for us to understand the composition of our community and make informed decisions going forward about what problems we have that have to do with demographic composition, and make informed decisions. There was also, let's see, I created a service this year or last year called Thunder Carts, which was a mobility assistance service using golf carts. And that was also a big success, well received. We gave over 1,000 rides to people at Critical who could just use a little bit extra help. So I'm running for the board because I would like to make our community, our community more resilient, especially our volunteer community. So one of the things I learned in emergency medical services was about the philosophy of just culture, which is essentially when something goes wrong, when a mistake is made, instead of looking at the people involved, looking at the processes and systems that led to the mistake. And that tends to lead to a better environment where problems are addressed and people aren't demonized for things that were not entirely in their control. So I've heard it said that we have in this community a volunteerism problem. I would instead argue that we have a history of burning out volunteer leaders, and this creates a cycle of sort of panicked catch-up and then reinvention of wheels and then added pressure due to all those things and then a repetition of the cycle. And I've seen that a number of times. And we have made progress there. We definitely have. And I think we have a lot more we can be doing. I specifically envision a culture of greater transparency and more shared decision making, where more people are involved and are making the work easier and are engaged more in a process of collaboration than reaction to death. I think documented roles and processes are essential to that kind of thing, and that's a task that we've made some progress on, and it's not done yet, but we are doing that and should continue to prioritize that. Okay. How's that? Okay. Yay. Thank you. Better. So thinking about not just who is going to be doing the job this production cycle, but integrally thinking about, as a matter of habit and culture, who we're training to do it next time, and who has done it before, who can be a mentoring resource, but doesn't necessarily need to have the entire job placed upon their shoulders time after time. I think that's important. We also have a phenomenon of siloing in the production community. The board and each of our 2 event production teams are siloed, and that creates some problems. And I think that creates problems even though there is a great deal of shared resources, habits, procedures, and goals that we have in common. And I would like to break down those silos. So I think I covered that. So in summary, I'm very interested in creating a more resilient production volunteer community. Thank you.
Thank you. Reboot. Sean's next. Okay. Sean is next, and I heard his mic. Go ahead.
Okay, that's pretty loud. So bear with me a little bit. Okay, so my name is Sean Spratt. Many of you probably have seen me as a fire performer. I've been part of this community since 2012. I went to Burning Man. I didn't know a single human when I went to Burning Man. Well, I knew two people who were there, but I wasn't friends with them, and I went and found their camps and surprisingly found them during my first burn. But while I was out there, I did a lamplighter run, and I was doing the mainline carry, and someone took a picture of me, and someone in the Seattle area saw that picture of me, recognized me, and introduced me to the Monday potlucks. And that was where I started coming and joined the community, started learning about camps, started learning about things like that, and eventually started spinning fire. And over my years here, I participated with many camps, some art projects. I do not have big build successes. I applied to have an art project last year, and I was not. Long story short, I do not have big art. I don't have any successful big art. For the most part, my interaction with the community has been as a fire performer, and then I also help as a ranger. I'm a Black Rock Ranger. I'm a Green Dot out there. And then the last few years, I've been expanding out a little bit and helping out with GATE. I see being on the board as a way to really help to stay connected with the community and a way to be involved in a whole different side of things that I never really saw before, because I would just show up and spin or help with whatever little problems were happening on the ground there, but none of the prep work, none of that. I helped a little bit with Ignition. Ignition is a fire troop. The name is confusing, but I helped with Ignition's event a little bit this year, and I learned how much work it was that the people were doing. And my hat is off to you for all of the criticals and just everything. It's amazing. Truly, truly amazing. I had no idea how much work that had been. I've been serving in a role on the board since, I guess it was October that I stepped in for one of the roles. And during that time, I can't really say that I've been the greatest board member. A lot of it has been learning, a lot of it's been kind of ramping up, a lot of it's been finding which meeting I'm supposed to go to. I really like, I think that if I am elected for an actual role on the board, I will probably continue helping with acculturation. Initially, I thought I would help a lot with tech, but honestly, the tech people really have it. They've got that sorted out. I'm pretty impressed, and increasingly impressed. Magic is incredible. But I think that if I'm elected to stay on the board, I will continue helping with acculturation. I'd like to help with one of the new committees that you'll be hearing about later, but a lot of that is still kind of in progress. So I can't say that I'm a good fit for that new committee yet. Additionally, I think that as we get closer into the events time, I will probably help more with that. But right now, I'm very much a board member at large, and I just want to be clear that the places that I would be assisting on are more with acculturation, because I really like welcoming people into this community. I love this community. This community has done amazing things for me, and it's been an amazing space for me to really work through a lot of stuff. And if I'm elected, I hope to help to continue to contribute in that way. That is all I have to say. I think it's
Thank you, Sean. Next is Akshay. We can hear you.
Excellent. Hi, I am Akshay Johar. I have been in this community for, since 2014, so it's been just over 10 years, and I have been involved in the community through critical production. The last 3 years of critical production, I've been the ambassador lead and have most people know me from there, as well as other community events as well. And most interestingly, what I have kind of done in the past few years is made any volunteering. I think Reboot mentioned we have a volunteering burnout issue in this community. And my goal really is to make volunteering fun. If you're having fun and volunteering that doesn't seem like work, then burnout can be avoided by if you're having fun. So that's what I bring to the ambassador role. Of course, being part of the ambassador role. Make a lot of this work fun as well as
Thank you, Akshay. And thanks to the people in the booth. We've got Magic, Winter, and Deke who have done a lot of work to pull together this so far successful, knock on wood, this so far successful hybrid meeting. Great work, folks. All right. And last but not least, we've got Rabbit.
Can you hear me? I too have notes. Hello, my name is Leeds, or Rabbit. I'm going to start by introducing myself, talking about some of my experience, and wrap it up with Oh, am I not talking clearly? All right. Okay. Just going to pull it so much closer. No room for error. All right. Well, my name is Leeds, or Rabbit. I have been going to burn since 2016. I started with the Big Burn and went to 5 big burns with various camps, one of which I ran myself with my partner. And I have gone to Critical 3 times, and I've run a camp there, co-led a camp there once. I would say that if I had to identify my strength in helping execute both art projects and camps, it would be that I am really good at background organization and getting into tracking down and creating processes to make the details not only easy to perform, but also make them so that they are both that they are kept track of in a way that makes sense for people to interact with. So to talk about my experience at Burns and in other forms of art, if you know me at all, you probably know me because of the Pie Shoot. Together with my Pie Shoot partner, we have made more than 6,500 pies to date. Thank you. So I will also preface this that these are little hand pies. They're not full pies, but still, that's quite a few. And part of the work that I did with that was to construct and plan a way to deliver the pies. The Pie Shoot in full construction mode is 15 feet long of 6-inch ducting with a hand-painted and lit sign to advertise what it is. Part of that project also included creating 6 surrealist billboards that were about 4 by 4 feet. Those were also hand-painted and lit by me and went on to be part of a larger narrative for a Burning Man camp that I've done other art for called The Lost Highway. And to talk about more of the detailed processes that I've created for the Pie Shoot, I have found ways to insert volunteers at every stage. When my partner and I first got started, it was just us, her and I, grinding out 800 pies in a week. And we knew that couldn't be the case. So we worked to develop a freezer system where we distributed pre-made pies throughout different friends that were in the neighborhood's freezers because we didn't have a large freezer. I created ways to get people involved in making the pies, both the crust and the rolling, in ways that were very clear and instructionable and reproducible, and in ways that didn't burden them with having to do too much thinking on their part, which I think is good to allow people to enjoy the experience and focus more on what they're kind of there for, which is, hanging out with friends, doing some work for them, chatting. Another project that I worked on, and this started during the pandemic. So during the pandemic, as you all remember, the Big Burn was canceled and Critical was canceled. So my partner and I put together an art walk, pretty much an urban burn, where we said, hey, do you have art in your garage? Do you have art in your garage? You probably do, because I know I have art in my garage. Why don't we put it all on the lawn, get it set up, and then put it on a map and advertise it on a website and get, Ignition Northwest involved for approval, which we did. And I built the website, I built the map, I built the questionnaire to onboard artists. In the first year we had, I think it was about 35 artists, 21 artists, 20 artists. The next year we had 30 artists. And from reports of people that attended the largest conglomeration of art projects, because the first year everybody had their stuff on their lawn. The second year everybody started merging into one location, which makes sense. Got to find someone with a big enough yard. people really felt that it was a great replacement for a burn experience, having like DJs and co-hosted art. I also run a theme camp for entirely different series of events. It's a cyberpunk LARP and art festival called Neotropolis in Southern California. If you're interested, talk to me after the show. The basic pitch is like, hey, do you like doing quests and then at night becoming a character from the Matrix who just found out about LEDs? Have I got the thing for you? So I run a camp of about 20 people and the art installation that we build as well. So this past year, I did coordination for all the members to get all of the material out there that we needed for camp, as well as the installation, updating documents and maintaining documents. We had 2 calls every week for 2.5 months to get everybody coordinated. And in the end, we actually got everything there. And I think that my main takeaway from that was that I am fascinated working with artists to get them coordinated to do something. And I think that there are a lot of opportunities throughout Burns for people to contribute to art, but they don't feel like they're and for those of you who may not be looking, a bunny quote, artist. Excellent. But what I've found through my experience is that artists are less people who are artists and more people that have an idea and execute it. And that idea to execution can be one of the most trying things. And I have found that it is one of the things that I'm really good at. So my partner is definitely an ideas woman. And I have brought lots of fun projects of ours together to fruition. And I have other friends that have had similarly complicated ideas that they want to do, but getting there can be tough. There's paperwork, and there's fire safety, and there's electrical safety, and there is reading documentation and getting things in on time, and asking people what they want to do, and then fitting it into whatever section of the event that you can, which is something that I've done, and I've done a bunch, and it's been very effective. Both with the Pie Shoot, with the Urban Burn, and with the theme camp that I run at Cyberpunk at the Cyberpunk Festival. And I suppose this works into my work experience. We've all some of us have talked about our work experience. Let me talk about mine. I've worked in software for a very long time, and one of the key things that I did was taking an application from the development team and then launching it. And that process of making sure everything is in the right place and delivered, and that people are contributing what they should be contributing, and then getting help to make sure that it actually happens in a timely manner. Turns out that it applies really well to festivals for constructing art projects. So in summary, I would love to be on the board. I know that it's a lot of work. Everyone that I've talked to has been like, it's a lot of work, right? But I think that I am well suited to that, and I enjoy it. And I really look forward to helping the community contribute in ways that they did not think possible, and making it easy for them to do so.
All right. Thanks, everybody. That was great. We've got 4, as I said, they've proven it now, amazing candidates. For 3, as I said, hopefully we've proven it, and if not, we'll continue to attempt to do so. 3 amazing board positions. And now, I guess, is the time where we turn it open to the community for questions of the candidates. I'm going to put my microphone on this stand right here. If you have a question, and you can make it down to the microphone, go ahead and do so. If you can't, just raise your hand or something, get my attention, and we'll get the microphone to you. We may start with that now because I see one hand up, and then we'll plant the mic.
I think you guys were all you're all wonderful candidates. It's fantastic. But this mostly goes to Josh. It's the conflict of interest with the as I believe you are currently the producer for this year's Critical. Am I not wrong? And the problem of taking payment if you're on the board of directors, and it's. I mean, I love everything that you bring, and I love your lucidity on everything that you see problems, you have strategies and whatnot, and that's all fantastic. But I'm merely saying, hey, I love also what you're doing with Critical, and I love that development, and I'm wondering if that's maybe a next year thing for a board position, and maybe finish out with Critical this year, because that's my question.
Okay, so I hear you asking about conflict of interest and what to do about that, or how so I'm glad you brought that up. So conflict of interest is, the way I see it, it doesn't mean something evil is happening. It means that there is a condition that we need to tread carefully around. So my answer is kind of in two parts, and I feel like the first part should be that I would be more than happy to surrender the stipend, to get that out of the way. So I would be more than happy to just remove the conflict. But second, I believe that conflicts of interest exist all over the place and need to be managed with care and integrity. And in any case, that would be my intention. I certainly would never vote on anything that could personally benefit me, et cetera, right? A larger answer, which I feel bad about dominating the floor for, but I'll just allude to, is I sort of wrote about this in my bio online. So, but the larger answer is that I would like to see us as a community moving more toward a model where it is a subset of the board that is producing events in general, and we ought to look at questions like that if we are to move to that kind of model and make sure we're satisfied with those answers, and not view any particular detail as fixed in stone. For example, the existence of a stipend.
Question from the chat. It's from Casey Steimer. Is that K-Love? Okay, so K-Love also has a question for Reboot. Being in the board and Critical Northwest producer are both time-consuming roles. How will you balance that workload and not burn out?
So heart hands to K-Love. Thank you for asking that. It turns out I'm already doing a whole lot of it. I already attend every board meeting. I already am an active member of 2 committees, actually. I am already engaging in sideband conversations with board members all the time. I don't actually think, in my case, it would be a whole lot more work. So it will be a little bit more work, but it's certainly an amount that I'm comfortable with.
Thank you. And I changed my mind. This running the mic around thing is working pretty well. I'll just keep doing that. So if you want to raise your hand if you've got a question, we'll get you a mic. Yep.
So this question anybody can answer, all of you can answer. What is something that being a member on the board will afford you, or what authority do you feel like you need to be able to accomplish the things that you want to, that you can't necessarily do just as a participant or as, leading a theme camp or an art installation or something like that?
Okay, sorry. It sounds like I am handling that one first, and I might have the most ignorant response on this, but I think that I don't know that being a member of the board necessarily affords, it might afford a little bit more momentum, but I don't think that there's anything specific that being on the board allows you to do that you can't do as a regular community member. I don't necessarily see, at least from my own point of view, I don't necessarily see this as adding more weight to my own initiative. Aside from the fact that as a board member, you're very much in the, you need to be upholding the ideals, you need to be upholding our bylaws. But aside from, I guess, sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but what I'm trying to say is I think that within our community, we are all very much empowered. I don't know that I don't know, I'll stop talking now, but I don't know that there's so much.
No. I got another one. Hello? Yes, this is working. Thank you. That's a great question because there is a reason to be a board member. Otherwise, we wouldn't have board members. And I think part of that reason is that there is a group of people who follow rules that the community sets, and then they are the people that makes the final decision on something. So it could be whether or not to allow a producer to run for a board member position, or it could be whether or not we want to sell walkie-talkies to Arizona, or any number of things. And I think that with that ability to make a vote and a decision, it also grants us a more of a meaningful, trying to think of the right word here. It means that we have to be more careful in our decisions. And I think that's something that then, because we are in that position, we would be in that position, we need to be transparent about why we're making a decision. There is like a lot of things that, I know I'm getting to a point here. I guess my basic decision, let's see, rephrase my answer. Being a board member allows you to do things and have more authority to do things, as well as be responsible to the community. Whereas an individual community member working on an art project that is just a theme camp, you don't have. And I think that ultimately it's doing that work is what I want to be able to do, and being a board member gives me the authority to do that.
Do you want to?
Looks on.
Yep. Now it's on. All right. I just need to mean it. So the board has a duty, right, to direct sort of the community's will and resources, including financial resources. I think there are many occasions that I have seen personally where it would have been helpful for me to be in that room as a producer. And one example I can give is the discussion of where this critical site should be. That would have been a room that I would have had a significant voice in, and I sometimes wasn't. And I'm speaking as producer of Critical, not as me, Josh, necessarily, right? But that's an example of something that I want to participate in. I want to be part of that strategic direction setting. And I feel that I have relevant skills and experience to do so.
Thanks, everybody. More questions?
What's the biggest change you'd like to see in the Ignition community?
Anybody want to go first? Otherwise, we can go. Well, does anybody have an answer to that question? Reboot has an answer. Go.
Well, I also feel I covered it, so I could. One big answer for me is I would like to see more people consider themselves to be a part of the creation of the event infrastructure, and I want to be careful about that because it is obvious to me that everyone is part of creating the event, right? I'm not talking about there being a line between production and not production, right? I really do believe that everybody who builds a theme camp, brings art, serves drinks, everything is a part of the event, right? But production is specifically about the infrastructure that makes it possible, and I want everyone to believe that they could do that if they were interested in doing so. I also would like for people to see that as a fun thing to do and not as a punishing thing to do. And we have some work to do there. So I think both those views currently exist. That it is fun, but is also punishing. So I'd like to shift from one to the other.
I'm going to preface what I'm going to say by I have only been to only so many meetings with the board, and that the one thing that I constantly think about is making sure that I'm not making assumptions about what a team might be doing or not doing, because I feel that there's a lot of opacity to the way that a governing organization works and the way that the community members feel. So keep that in mind about what I'm going to say. The main thing that I'm interested in working on the board is to create avenues to convince more people to contribute art to the event, and also for them to think of themselves as artists, as people that can complete things. Because I think that there's a lot of people that do a lot of things and maybe they don't think that it is art, but it is. And I would love to be in the position to create a program that promotes that.
In terms of next year, I think I'm echoing what I'm hearing from people in that I'd like to see more participation, more of a year-round participation. I'm not trying to say that this is my own I'm not the first person to voice this in any way, but I would really like to see more year-round participation. And I think that my own impact on that would probably be through the acculturation, just trying to find more things to do to make people feel welcome and make people feel more included in the community.
Great. Okay, next stand.
So everyone's been talking about like goals and problems and things that they want to help find solutions to in the community. But what sort of like plans or initiatives do you guys want to implement to help get us to that place where those things are solved?
Go ahead, Reboot.
My hesitation was just because I feel like I've spent a lot of air talking about that. So I wanted to give somebody else a chance. But this sort of folds into the answer of why also the board on top of producing. I do feel that there are sort of larger strategic initiatives that I can have an influence over as a board member, as opposed to just producer. So, for example, transparency. I think that I hear people talking about the board as a them, which really bugs me, because we are all burners volunteering our time. And I think one thing that would help with that is more transparency. So specifically, posting our minutes, posting the board minutes online for people to review, I think would be one way to sort of lower that. So this brand new idea I just thought of myself, never been done before. Fair enough. Then probably the next step of that would be being more loud about it, right? Like announcing it and saying here they are in the monthly emails and things like that, right? So more proactive transparency. Thank you, board. By the way, I do want to acknowledge that the current board is killing it, in my opinion, and that's part of why I'm excited to join it. So a lot of this stuff is already in progress, and so thank you.
So, remember all that stuff that I said before the last question? This is the reason I said it. I don't know all of the processes the board currently employs. And I am afraid, demonstrably, that if I say something, the board is going to be like, no, we already do that.
They wouldn't do that.
Ruben is right, they would never do that. A lot of what Reboot said, I feel very strongly about too. Being loud about transparency, moving from a them and us model to a we model is something that I feel strongly about. I don't know if it is possible, because there is an authority difference and people will kind of slice that in a way that makes sense to them, and often a they makes sense to them. But in respect to creating more opportunities for artists, I think there's a lot of good ways to do that. I think that creating opportunities for community members to organize and to know the avenues into creating art and to help them getting there through the grant application if they don't have the means to do so. And perhaps even board-sponsored classes on here's how to move an idea into fruition, which I think can be tough, because sometimes you're like, I have lots of time, and it's like, no, you actually need to get this done by March. And like hearing those words can be really important to an artist. That's what I got.
Just backing up, the question was specifically what are actual things that we're doing at present to go ahead and implement this. Is that right? So what I think that what's really, really important and what we're actively doing right now is filling these board seats and then populating the committees that we're trying to form. Because, you know, one of the things about democracies that's kind of funny is you get so focused on the leader, but you really need a good population. You need an active and an engaged population that's participating in it. Otherwise, you just have these figureheads. And so I think one of the big things that we'll be doing to implement stuff as we're going forward this next year is to populate these committees and to get more voices in here, to get more people in here. I'm not trying to diminish anything about the discussion on process and things like that, but we need to have more bodies in here and we need to distribute the weight.
Yeah, I think
Okay, we'll do some online questions, and then I saw another hand, and we'll get to that.
Okay, I got a question from online from Michael Sparing. And this one's directed at Akshay, although I guess if others have thoughts on this, they're welcome to answer too. I would like to hear Akshay's ideas to bring fun to volunteering and how he would implement those ideas.
But example of both one is the ambassador program and one is setting up a team camp for DeepLaya. We organize besides every time you organize camp or program, there is work. No doubt there is work. The question is, can you have social time while doing the work? So a few things that I introduced for the ambassador program was having camps take over. Made it more popular, having camps take over the role. Camps perform the roles that the leads have the volunteers give sort of a break. This way, the camps also get involved in publicizing their events as well. The second thing that we did, as part of a fun thing we did, was we had a happy hour every day. Margarita hour and virgin margarita, as well as besides the important part of that, your connection with your volunteers should. So for me personally, I have established a connection that with my volunteers. This is not just a one event affair. You maintain connection the whole year with the volunteers. From a community, also from a social perspective. I've made a lot of good friends through the work I've done, and having that connection keeps volunteering fun. But also people who I've made connections with come back and spend time doing that activity, because that's really important. Event be all, but having a long long-term connection. And of course, everybody likes getting back, getting stickers and necklaces. Within our budget constraint, we've done some good work there, but I think more can be done there. And appreciating people's time that they put. Last year's critical, we had weighted the hours for people who volunteered and giving them more credit for the time that they volunteered there. So all of those areas of appreciation and fun is something that
Cool. And we have another question from online. This one is again from K-Love, and it's for all candidates. Part of the board's responsibility is to allocate funds. What are your ideas and priorities that these funds should be allocated to?
So back to what I said several questions ago. I do not know the depths of the finances that are involved with the org, and I am excited to learn. I think that, the only answer that I have is that I would like to allocate funds to make it easier for artists to, or people, not artists, people to make art and to become artists. And I think that there is a lot of opportunity outside and within the event to do that. So that's what I would like to look into and see what I can contribute.
So the org has a mission. we are an arts organization, and so our primary duty is to serve our mission. And so we do that. We give money to artists. We put on events where art happens, and we exist. INW exists. So INW has an amount of duty to continue existing, and part of the requirements for existing is to not go into the red and fail to pay our bills. So we have to pay our bills. The things we do cost a lot of money, and so we have to bring in revenue, mostly through ticket sales, to do those things. We have other duties, for example, safety. We spend quite a bit of money on safety. It's a long list of things that we spend money on, and it's a lot of money. And our discretionary funds are not extensive. We are currently running at a positive balance such that we have a little bit of flexibility should critical just fall on its face one year, but not much more than that. And so we have an amount of sort of responsibility to maintain things the way we are doing them currently. And also, we change that stuff all the time. We make decisions, and that's part of the board's primary job. The board is the entity primarily making those decisions. So that matters.
So we just went through this recently about deciding where critical was going to be at. That had a lot to do with deciding, or with looking at our prior obligations, our prior decisions. To what Reboot was saying, we have a lot of prior obligations that we have to kind of maintain as the years go on. In addition to that, as was said, we have our grants funding committee, which allocates funding for art. I think that to the question about what I would be, where my position would be on funding, I would lean more towards things that enable accessibility for more people, or things that enable more artists, instead of focusing on kind of one central expensive thing that may or may not work. But that's about what I have to say.
I may not know what I want to spend my money on, but I do want to make sure that if we do decide to make major changes into the way that we spend money and the way that we get money, that is really well supported, and that we answer all of the questions before we make a jump into, say we want to do a new event, then we need to know exactly how much it's going to cost us. We can't just not know. We can't just say this is going to cost us double this amount or whatever. Unknowns can be really bad, and that's not who we should be.
What strategies do you guys have for collecting information about and then maintaining alignment with information about how the community is feeling about these decisions? Because we've heard a lot about the board and what you want to do and what your priorities are and all of these things, but one of the challenges about this community is we're all really different and we're distributed, and so I'm curious, what kind of tactics or strategies do you have to maintain that connection?
Go ahead, Reboot.
It's a good question. Thank you for the question. So remaining part of the community is a big part of that. Going out and being in the community matters a lot, and not separating oneself. I also believe that we should be actively asking the community, and we are doing that. Part of the census that we initiated this year included some opinion questions about things like, how do you feel about moving the site? That's important. I think it's okay to say, we collectively are working on asking the community some more probing, detailed questions about that very question of moving the site for 26. Yeah. And just to be clear, Critical 25 is at the Masonic Family Park, just in case anyone was worried about that. But yeah, we need to ask actively. We need to listen. The end.
It's a great question about how do we find out what the community wants. And I think asking them is important. However, I think that there is a lot of people asking everybody questions all the time. And I think that it is going to require a couple of different strategies to find the one that fits good for the community. I think the census was great. It really puts you in a position where you have to answer. However, it only targets people who go to critical. So obviously expanding the census would be great. And I personally love questionnaires. So I've created lots of questionnaires. And what I found is the more questions you can put in a questionnaire that are easily answered, the more traction you're going to get. And there is obviously a limit. Nobody wants to answer 100 questions or anything like that. Does anyone know about the tech survey? I'm not going to ask. You know what I'm talking about. And of course, we can't ask a question every single day, which in a controlled environment you can, but we can't. I think that when it boils down to it, my suggestion would be that we do have some foresight into what committees are talking about. And I think that a monthly, hey, take this questionnaire. What do you feel about these topics that we're going to tackle as a committee? And then take that information into those committee meetings, either as written knowledge that is constructed from that feedback or as a proactive reach out that hey, I like what you wrote. Could you attend the committee meeting and repeat your feelings about this?
I'm thinking a little bit on what you ended with, because I like the notion of a questionnaire before the meetings, just to be sent. Yeah. Forms are, I'm going to ramble just a little bit before, and then I'm going to get to your question. But the questionnaires thing is really funny, because when I was in the acculturation meeting the first time, we were talking about Bea's survey. And when I was looking at it, I was thinking, well, how do we make people interested in taking these kinds of things? How do we make people excited to go and enter in information? And this is still a work in progress, but from that, I made a thing that I called the BMPI, or the Burning Man Personality Indicator. And it's kind of like a Kersey temperament sorter, but it gives you your score between all the 10 principles. And the first one that I made was 30 questions. I think 30 questions. And then the next one I made was 50 questions. And as the questions went on, it just started getting a little bit more cumbersome. And then the latest version actually just asks you 5 questions, but it's a GPT in the back that kind of analyzes your responses and then asks you some more questions and analyzes those. And so that's a lot more engaging. And no, you're great. And to kind of close up my ramble, what I'm saying is that the questionnaires and the things like that, we definitely have a challenge about making them interesting, making people get encouraged to go and do that. My first thought on it was to make it turn into something about you, because people love to hear about themselves, and so giving them a score like, you are a leave no trace hero, that type of a thing. There's so many of those Facebook personality tests where it tells you that you're like this thing or you're like that sign. And so that was kind of a thought about how to try to bring in that to get more community and more stuff. But I really think that, harking back to what Reboot said, being in the community is so important to be able to hear what's going on. but also having the community. So we have so many different little communities though. And so if you're in one community, you might not necessarily see all of them. So finding ways to get the people to come and congregate, finding ways to get the people to come and participate in the boards, finding ways to get people to come to the committees. And I'm loving that notion of a little survey we could do every month. So I think it's a work in progress. I think we're working on it. I think that deciding the new site or deciding if we were going to have a new site was a real interesting exercise in our weaknesses in this area. And I think we can definitely improve on this. And I don't think that there's going to be a singular solution, unfortunately, because I think when something works in one space, it might not work in the others. So I don't have a great answer for that, aside from just saying that we're working on it.
All right, we have time for one more question, and then we're going to move on to talking about the various rooms where it happens.
Okay, since we're talking about engaging more people, we're sitting here in a room of like 20 or 24 people, and 1/3 plus of them are board members or applying for the board. So do any of you have any concrete strategies for just getting more people into this room for these very few town halls we have per year?
This is a very early meeting. And I'm wondering, if this was moved to a different time, would it make attendance easier? Would be my first suggestion. Another suggestion is that the first thing that I did when I was looking into becoming a board member was that I subscribed to the work calendar. And I think that it was something that I had to Google to figure out how it was specifically done for my service. And creating perhaps a smoother way to do that would be better. And then the third thing is that I personally do great on conference calls. If you work in the tech industry, or really any industry that can kind of be done through conference call, you've done a lot of conference calls in the last 4 years. You probably have your setup and your camera and your headset, and it's all done. To attend this meeting, I had to download a new app that I did not have. And that was a little bit of a hurdle. We were a couple minutes late. I was going to call in, but no, there's a new app. So I know that the tech community is narrowing down on a solution. And I think the sooner we come up with a solution where all of the meetings happen with a single service, the better. So to reiterate, asking the community if this is a good time. 5 o'clock on a Sunday could be pretty early for people. People are still putting like kids to bed. Making sure that that people know when the event is happening, perhaps through a calendar invite. And third, making sure that the tech we're using is consistent across the board so that there's no surprises when you're trying to sign in. So, thank you.
Raffles?
Yes, obviously we could have pie. I can teach you all how to do it. We'll have a board member pie making situation. We can get the community to donate butter. We can get this done. Already out of the process.
I definitely want to second the technical issues for like with having to install a different client and stuff. When I first started interacting, I was like, what? And to be honest, I still have some trouble finding stuff on our calendar. But I think that there isn't really a huge impetus for people to come and be present at these meetings. And so creating something external, I'm not really teasing when I say raffles. I don't know how many people are watching this online. I hope it's a significantly larger number. But in order to get in-person participation, I think we would need to be doing something extra like raffles or something like that.
So I think people will tend to tune in to watch when they're interested, and they'll show up in person when they want to be heard. The meeting that we had about moving the site had a lot more attendance because people wanted to be heard about it, and that makes sense. And I'm not bothered by that. If the goal is to have more attendance at town halls, and I don't disagree, I think having them on a regular schedule would help a lot. I think people knowing that there is a cadence to town halls and a heartbeat to that bidirectional communication will help a lot with people fitting it into their expected schedule.
Thanks, everybody. I hear that there's at least one question online, and we'll go ahead and get that taken care of before we move on to the rest of the program.
Yeah. Ooh. That sounds weird.
Special.
You're fine, man. Okay, that's better. We have a question from Dr. Jones, who says, no need to be specific, but do you have personal biases or privilege that you'll be bringing to the role? And if so, how do you manage that as a representative serving a diverse community of many different backgrounds?
So I am the whitest person. I am tall, I am male, I am cis. Not a fist bump, that was a comparison. Yeah, I don't know what that was then. You know, I work in tech. Like, there is a lot of privilege and a lot of notions. And one thing that I've worked really hard on in the past couple past decade, is to go into things with the least amount of ego and to ask people and actually listen to the answer. And even if they're people who maybe are boring or irritating or have ADHD or don't look like me, I think that it's something that I'm not perfect at, but it's something that I'm really working at. And in some ways, it's something that I enjoy. It's one of the reasons that I've been really enjoying working with artists of late, because they all have interesting motivations, and they have different backgrounds, and learning who they are and what they want to do has, I think, improved me. And I think that's something that I look forward to doing more of.
So I'm going to click all the boxes as well on entitled and all of that. I'm a tech worker. I'm all the previously default settings, if that makes sense. So as a ranger, we do training on looking at where we're coming into the situation, what's our set of preconceptions, and the main learning or the main thing, what I want to dial it all back to is just listening a great deal, understanding that I'm wrong, starting from the assumption that I'm wrong. When rangering situations on Playa, one thing that I found really useful was to just loudly declare my incorrect understanding of the situation so that everybody would immediately work together to correct my misunderstanding, and then all the people who are fighting are now happy. And and I'm not trying to necessarily showboat being wrong, but I think that not being or really taking it to heart to know that you're most often wrong has been an important thing. We in my work, it's kind of funny because like you can think really, really fast, and that's great, but all it really does is let you get a lot more wrong answers much more quickly. And so these are things we need to kind of always keep in our mind whenever we really think we have surety on something.
I really lead into experiencing joy from having my mind changed. It's something I sincerely look forward to. And one way I cultivate that is I try to be the last person to sort of offer opinion. And part of that is I want to hear what else is going on in the room or the conversation or the meeting or whatever, and adapt my own viewpoint on the fly. So yeah, I'll just acknowledge that I am white and I am male, and all the other things that inform my viewpoint. One that maybe is not obvious and is kind of vulnerable is I'm a very large person, and so especially in rangering contexts, but all the time, I'm aware of how my size influences how I'm viewed, and I am often trying to physically shrink to offset that. So that's something I'm just constantly aware of. But that's true of my whiteness and maleness as well. I actively listen, and I try to know where I'm coming from.
All right. Thank you, candidates. You all have been doing a great job of sitting here awkwardly in front of the room for the last hour and a half, and we want to give you a break from that. And instead, awkwardly center the board to talk about the various rooms where it happens. So, candidates, go ahead and thank you. Thank you for running. Good luck. Good luck in the election. All right, I'm just going to open with one quick note, and then I'm going to hand the mic to Jimmer to kind of MC this part of the program. It turns out we the board, and in fact, kind of the wisdom of the way this organization is put together, sort of recognizes that it shouldn't just be the board making decisions, and that there's a whole lot of things to think about and spend lots of quality time debating and gathering information on, and then making decisions about. And the way we do that is through a bigger than one single handful of committees, smaller than two handfuls, I think. And we would love to have a lot more of you involved in a lot more committees. And Jimmer, you want to take it from here?
Happy day. Thank you. Gee whiz. 4 great candidates. What's that? Yay is right. It's fantastic. But one of you is going to have to join the committee, right? This is the thing, though, is that our committees are awesome, right? Like, we work in grants together, right, Rachel? Oh, my God. We work in acculturation together, Marley. Oh, my God. It's freaking great. Co-chair over here for acculturation, co-chair with the grants over here. We have a bunch of co-chairs because we all love the committees, because the committees are really where the rubber hits the road. This is where we do a lot of the stuff. We've got these posted on the internet where we've got the pages for all the things. This is where all the things come together. We're even going to have a new one this season. It's revving itself up from the background, all about volunteerism. And we have got all that happening. And what we're going to do next is showcase the Communications, Acculturation, Events, Tech, Conduct, and Grants Committee one by one, so that each one of them can sort of share a little bit about them. And then afterwards, if you've got any questions, by all means. So first and foremost, can we bring nonsense?
Hi. So good to see all of you. Happy to be here. I'm actually a newly minted co-chair of the Communications Committee. I'm very excited to be working with Megaphone. If you receive our emails on a monthly and more recently weekly basis, we're the people who sneak our way into your inbox. We post a lot on Facebook, and we're exploring possible alternatives, other ways of reaching out to and communicating with the community as a whole. Some things that we're hoping to do in 2025 is put together a comms calendar so we can have some, speaking to previous statements about having patterns and habits and things that people can understand as predictable. We want to be communicating in regular, predictable ways. We want people to know when they're going to get information, how it's going to come, and make it really easy to expect. And so we have a lot to do there, a lot of growth. And the Communications Committee, I think, for the last maybe whole year has been 2 people. So if you like communication, you like communicating with the community as a whole, you want to do it more, you think there are other avenues we can do it to improve, join us, all other committees. And of the month that we meet this month, but I can't, but you should look at the website, which has the calendar. If you have issues with the calendar or you want to reach out to us directly, you can email us at communications@ignitionnorthwest.org. Thank you so much. It's on the 28th of January. Great.
Awesome. Thank you, nonsense. Comms, like your Josh was saying, we just need to make it louder, right? Right? Like, here's our trusted leader of Critical, etc. And he didn't know that we had the minutes for our regular meetings posted on the internet. Well, yes, they are. Please go find them. Find out what we're talking about. I'm actually a standing up committee representative. We have some really fun stuff, like Sean was talking about. He's been participating. He's been a board member now for a couple of months, and really active participant in the Acculturation Committee, where we have a bunch of projects going on. One is a video inquiry session. So we are going to be interviewing people in the community that have been participating in the Burning Man organization stuff around, right? Like I might find Andy and be like, hey, 25 minutes with you? What do you say? Because this fella, quiet, been sitting here all the time, great artist, you know, like what does it mean to be you? But, you know, and so that would be a really cool piece of, you know, knowledge sharing on the internet. We can do that through the acculturation. That is what it is, to be turning people on to what it is. So they're going to be seasonal campfire-like talks, turning people on to what we do, how we do it. It can really be anybody who's been doing stuff. So, you know, come and join us in the acculturation meeting, third Tuesday, 6 p.m. on the internet. And next, I would like to invite the events committee, Beth Starr.
I am a co-chair of the events committee. I feel like I have the easy job what the events committee is, but we help plan the events. We are the ones that interview the candidates for producers, both for Sea Compression and for Critical. We give recommendations to the board about what to do about things like possibly moving the event. Spotlight a lot in the last couple of months, but last town hall had a lot to do with what we're working on. Again, we have had way more people attending our meetings in the last couple of months, which has been amazing. We've had a lot more participation from the community. Our next meeting is January 8th, which is this Wednesday, and we will be talking more about Critical Northwest and its future. As Reboot said, we are staying at the Masons for 2025. We are still thinking about what comes after that. So if you are still interested in that discussion, it is ongoing. And Magic, we have the link, right? We have another poll. This is sort of, we're trying to get, the first round was great because we had the census. We got people that were at Critical. We had a second round that got a little bit more information from the community, which I think is sort of priming the pump. We're hoping to get way more information from a way more broader spectrum. And it's a little bit different format. There are statements that you can agree, disagree, or be unsure about. Once you get through that and we have enough people participating, there'll be a place to have a discussion. So please, your friends that are even vaguely interested in Burnerick stuff, like your families, like this is for everybody, both people that are in this room, people that are online, people that have never been to an event. We would really like to hear from as many people as possible. Thanks.
Rock on. And you not only know Feynman as our trusty leader in presidency and all things formal, but he's also our tech guy because his brain works in many ways.
Hello, Tech Committee. So of the 8 or so committees that we have, we are easily the 8th or so most important committee. And we kind of have 3 major focus areas, I would say. We're interested in people participating in any way related to tech, in any way that you can imagine related to ignition, critical, sea compression, et cetera. But our 3 main focus areas are the website. We would love to have people help whip our WordPress empire into shape. We focus on the radios. This is new as of a couple of years ago. Instead of the radios being federated across all of the events left for each event to solve the radios problem roughly on their own, we now have the events as customers of the Tech Committee who promise to provide radio infrastructure, default settings, and training, and this sort of stuff. And the third thing is kind of a newly emerging thing. You're seeing some of the fruits born on the screen today, or online if you're watching at home. And that is we're making the AV Club subcommittee of the Tech Committee, or at least that's what I'm currently calling it. You can certainly you can dress as a theater tech if you would like. Yes, you can. You can also dress any way that's appropriate for burning. Yeah. So that's the Tech Committee. We meet the 3rd Tuesday of every month, which is usually the night before the board meeting. Every once in a while, it's almost a week after the board meeting, and that makes it really hard for us to ask for budget changes or to make policy proposals because we missed the boat by 6 days and have to wait another month. But that's the way calendars work, and it's okay. It's January 21st this month at 7 p.m., right after the Acculturation Committee. Thanks.
Awesome sauce. And again, we have nonsense here for conduct so that we can be well.
Hello again. Lovely to see your faces. So the Conduct Committee, as I think this group knows, has had open nominations for community members for the last month or so. We're going to leave those open for another 2 weeks, so they're going to close on January 19th at noon. So if you are interested in being on the Conduct Committee, you can find, if you're interested in being on the Conduct Committee, you can email conduct@ignitionnorthwest.org, and we'd be happy to get you in touch with that link for how to sign up. There's also, it's been in, I think, every email that you've received for the last 2 months. So if you have any of your emails and you're looking for a link to nominate yourself for the Conduct Committee, look there. We are really excited to expand the committee and to add more members. I think it's really, really important that this community has a lot of engaged community participation. Right now, it's a skeleton crew, and I think we will benefit hugely from y'all's participation and collaboration. For those who are interested in the process and what it will look like, after the 19th, folks we will review the applications, and then we will put out our nominations, the list of people who've nominated themselves for community review. The community will have an opportunity to give comment on the people who have applied to the Conduct Committee. They'll be able to reach out to us directly if they have concerns, and we will take that information into account when we're choosing members of the Conduct Committee. That's the big updates for us. We're currently also just actively